for a new car.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, very much on time. We've got a couple of minutes to go, and we're just waiting for a few members of the debating club from San Cayetano to arrive and join us. So it'll be just 2 minutes, okay? So relax just for a few minutes. Well, good morning, everybody, and a warm welcome to the San Cayetano Debate Club as well. Thank you very much for the warm welcome, Tracy, and a warm welcome to, obviously, the San Cayetano team and Agora. Alberto, thank you very much for bringing your team over this morning.
Thank you for having us.
And, of course, a warm welcome to the Rotary gang sitting at the back there, Viv, Harry, and John. Thank you very much. This is the third debate in the second round of the preliminary debates, so in the 8th season, so it's really quite an important debate for both teams. We understand that. As usual, before we start, I'd like to give thanks to the sponsors that make this possible for all of us. Palmer Pictures, Imperial Properties, Clinical Grenada, Ticket Travel, and Ibex Insurance. Thanks to all of those. The Cayetano team today, Magda Amat, hello Magda, Elena Daza, and Ines Arancibia. Is that right? Yes. Thank you. And on the Agora team, we've got Martina Marino, Christopher Ferdinand, and Amir Shura. Welcome. Timekeeper today is Alison Tom. Your judges are Hannah Christensen, Gail Davis, and your spokesperson for the jury is Oliver Nielsen. The motion today is humanity is not free. Not an easy one. Humanity is not free. Debating for the motion, Agora, who won the toss, and against the motion, San Cayetano. Just a little reminder also for those here from the club. Obviously, the bell starts at 5 minutes. After 1 minute, the bell goes, points of information are allowed. The bell goes again at 4th minute, no further interruptions. 5 minutes, that's the bell for game over. And for the 2-minute summary at the end, there are no interruptions permitted. Okay? With that said, debate begins. Over to the timekeeper. Thank you.
Okay, so Agora, let me know when you're ready to start the timer.
So, are we truly free? The question of freedom has interesting philosophy since its beginnings, including the degree of freedom we process. Do we live according to a master plan, or do we determine our lives? Do we have a choice, or only an illusion of choice? Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed audience, judges and respected opponents, my name is Martina Merino, and today I'm here with my team members, Christopher Ferdinand and Amir Segura. Today, we convene to develop the discourse that challenges our assumptions about the state of humanity, the proposition that humanity is not free. This assumption invites us to compare the indicators of our existence, to question the depth of liberties we often take for granted, and to confront the multi-phase constraints that persist in our interconnected world. Since we're born, we're always chained into a set of rules that actually determine our own lives. Our lives are already written since the beginning, with certain laws and rules and everything. So, before the opposing team starts talking about the comparison with historical, that we used to be less free, LGBTQ rights, and all that stuff, I'm going to take out this map. This map is from the Economist Intentions and Democracy Index. In this map, we can see in color all of the places that LGBTQ rights, slavery is not permitted, and all that stuff. But today, we're stating about how is humanity not free. And when we talk about humanity, we talk about the whole world. We're not just talking about those countries. So, how we can see there's only a bunch of countries that are actually drawn on red. It's not the whole world. So, we can just see a few examples that we're not free. Well, let's go back and let me introduce myself. I'm Martina Merino, and I'm cursing right now 4th of ESO, Educación Secundaria Obligatoria. So let's go back to that last question, last word, obligatoria, mandatory. I'm not even allowed to take the school that I want, to take the courses that I want. I can choose if I'm going to take physics, biology, business, but what if I don't want to take English, or Spanish, or math? So nowadays, we get a monthly talk with the police that the consequences of our actions are taken by us, not by our parents. So why can't we just choose what to do with our lives, since all the consequences face us? So why can't I choose to do, I don't know, Spanish but not literature of Spanish, or just don't do math, you know? We're not actually free. This set of rules don't let us just go out and do whatever we want. We're chained into this set of rules that never actually helped us in sort of ways, but since a long time ago, we're actually not free. It's true, like a few years ago, well, actually a lot of years ago, there was the French Revolution that was to stop with the kings that just have power above everything. And what did they gain after it? Nothing. They end up just being the same as they used to, with some rules that changed, but everything was the same. So right now, we live in this illusion that everything is actually the same as it used to be back then. It's just that there's some rules that change, but not actually anything specific. So we're still submitted to all this set of rules that makes us live the way the government wants us to live. So practically, where do I want to get with this? We're not free. We're just living into this master plan that just creates us some illusional of choice and makes us want to continue with them, but they just are sabotaging us mentally. So that's one question. Why are we still living in this set of illusion where we could just break free? Thank you.
In the city of Detroit, a quite complicated city. A young man called Benjamin, a black boy, was born. When he was little, his father died, so he was left alone with his mother, a woman who had no education and no money to support his family. Let's not forget that in the 1915s, there was a lot of racism. For example, the black people had to go to different bathrooms than white people. And also, they had to sit in different places than white people. Then, because of this racism, Benjamin's classmates and teachers thought he was stupid and he was going to achieve nothing in his life. Also, Benjamin but despite of these difficulties, Benjamin wanted to fight and to have a good future and studies and help his mother. And he has one clear thing, that he wasn't going to give up. Because all this effort and sacrifice was worth it in the end. Because since this young man managed to become the best student in his school, and also he managed to achieve his greatest dream, to become a doctor. And he became the best children's neurosurgeon in history, Professor Ben Carson. Benjamin's case is a clear example that human beings, even in the worst conditions and situations, we always are capable of fighting for what we want, because we are free. We are free to move forward. We are free to make decisions, our own decisions, and we are free to choose what we want to do and what we want to be. First, good morning. My name is Magdalena, and today, together with my teammates Elena Gaza and Inés Arantibia, we are going to convince you that humanity is free. First, freedom of expression, a right that appears in Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Here you have the Human Declaration of Human Rights. The right to express, seek, receive, and share information and ideas without fear is fundamental for our education and to develop. Yes? Of course. So the right to express, seek, receive, and share information and ideas without fear is fundamental for our education and to develop as people and persons. Am I free to express my opinion? Yes, of course you are. Your voice counts, and you are free to say what you think. You are free to share your ideas with the others. Yes.
So we're free to give our opinions, but there's certain people that it's stated that have given their opinion and have been locked on jail for a bunch of years.
Yeah, that's true. But in some countries, for example, this case, for example, Nelson Mandela go to jail because of this, but it was like a lot of years before. So nowadays, this don't normally happen. So okay, and then you also have the right to agree or disagree with us. Yes.
Point of information. There's still millions of people in a lot of countries which have censorship in the media and can't really express their own opinion because they get punished if they do so.
Yes, but now I'm going to explain two arguments that show that this can be solved. And also because human beings, we are able to express our opinion, and in places like, for example, the country of Benjamin, he has like difficult conditions, but he became a doctor and he achieved his dream. And second argument, individual freedom. Human beings throughout our lives have to make a wide range of decisions autonomously and of different issues. Like, for example, what career we want to study, what religion we want to practice, and many other questions. And thanks to freedom.
After a not so even deep examination, we can notice that humanity is not free, and it's not as absolute as we might think it is. We might be able to take decisions, but at the end, there's always restraints. There's always limitations in the things we can decide, the future we want to shape for ourselves. We can't truly do whatever we want. There's still, in a big part of the world, there's still discrimination, there's still poverty, there's still people who can't express their own sexuality nor their own religious freedom. What kind of freedom is it if we can't even truly express our own ideologies? They're just selling us an idea of freedom. They're promoting an idea that we think that we're free, but we're truly not. They just give us limitations within our boundaries. They think...
Of course, there are places where it's
So they're just selling us an idea of freedom, even though we can't really do whatever we want. They put us in a little rat cage, and they tell us that we can do whatever we want inside of this cage. But if we even think about leaving this little cage that they give us, then they punish us. And as an example, one of the first things in almost all of the constitutions in the world is that water is an obvious right for every human and every citizen. But yet we need to pay taxes for something that is necessary for us to stay alive. How is it possible that we need to pay in order to live? That doesn't seem free to me. That doesn't seem just. Also, as I've said before, our liberty has been robbed. We think that now we've made great advancements into getting freer. I don't know if any of you have ever read the book of Animal Farm. It basically says that there were humans, which is an allegory to all the tyrants that were before, that they have oppressed the animals, and the animals have risen, and that they're getting the power for themselves. But it ends out that they've just been replaced with another tyrant, being the pigs, saying that even though we think that we might be freer than before, at the end it's still the same, just with other names. Also, they force us, as my companion Martina said, with education. They give us certain options of what we want to do with education, as an example of choosing biology or physics, but at the end we can't truly decide what we want to do with our future and our own education. Also, laws. Laws are just there to curtail our freedom. They say to us that these laws are necessary in order for us to live with each other, but it's not 100% necessary. Because at the end, a human that is mentally not capable will kill either way, even if there's laws or not. And almost all of the laws are even limited to what the government wants you to think. Also, the government, it gives us censorships in the media, in the television, the newspapers, even the internet meanwhile, and nowadays. It's all controlled by the government. They make us think that the media that we watch is neutral, but it is not. At the end, history is only written by the guys who have won the wars, the guys who have won the civil rights. But at the end, it's just the same with another name. So I think that it's absurd that they're saying that it's just a few countries in which we are free and it's only a few which are not. But it's still millions of people which are oppressed. There's still millions of women who are afraid to go outside of the streets because they can't even go to the streets because they're afraid. The government says they give us security, but it's not the case. At the end, there's still thousands of women which get raped, which are afraid to go outside. I mean, what kind of liberty is it if you're afraid to even go outside with the clothes that you want? So, as a short summary, they just give us an illusion of freedom. They make us think that we're free even though we're not. They sell us the idea that we can do whatever we want with the future, but there's always limitations. We aren't truly free. Thank you very much. Yes. So they have given the example of an Afro-American man who's managed to rise, but at the end it's just an exception. There's still millions of Afro-Americans and people of other ethnicities which feel oppressed for a thing they can't even decide when they're born. And I think that they give an example of someone who made it to rise within the society. At the end, as I've stated just a few seconds ago, it is an exception. There's still thousands of people who are in poverty, which don't have jobs, and mostly because companies, they still are, as I've said, they've still got preferences in what they want to have. At the end, they say, we're now free, we can do whatever we want. We choose the people independently of where they come from, of their ethnicities, of their sexualities. But it is not true. There's still preferences for certain types of people. And I find it unjust that there's still people defending a cause that has long been lost.
I disagree with what you said, but I will defend until my last breath your right to say it. Good morning, my name is Elena Data, and today I'm here because I'm going to be presenting our two first arguments against the emotion that the humanity is free. Nowadays, if you enter to any social network, you will be seeing the freedom of expression. Thanks to the social network, the freedom of expression does exist because everyone gives their opinion, they express how they feel, or they talk about the bad conditions that each one has in his country. Technologies, what a great advance, right? But also, it can be seen as a voice. You heard me right, a voice. They can express their opinion, and no one has the right to eliminate what is considered their voice. Young people, for the first time in history, have as much a voice of a retired woman in her 70s. It also gives us a window of observation into the reality of this world. For example, thousands of videos inside
Point of information. So basically saying that due to the social media we're free and we can express our own voice, but at the end, in any social media, there's still limitations, there are rules that they give us on what we want to say. And if we want to say something that is against the norm or the majority of the people, we get exposed, we get doxxed. What kind of freedom is it in this? Yeah.
Yes, but it could be considered that, but there also is a good part that many things that, for example, I'm going to say now, they could save lives. I'm going to continue. So, thousands of videos inside nursing homes for elderly people have been leaked and shared with the whole world, where it shows that many abusers, that some poor old people who can defend themselves due to the health problems that they have. Believe it or not, many lives from these people have been saved due to these videos that went viral, and thanks to that they could defend themselves or their families can help them. Thanks to the haters, maybe you can think that due to the social networks they are haters, so they open the doors and they can criticize things. But thanks to the haters, you can see the bad things that you can have. You can improve your things, and at the end of the day, everyone has haters. A good example is Apple. Apple has critical judges that they search the bad things that have in every single product that they created. So at the end of the day, the haters, we can see that they're a good thing. Freedom of expression is not only reflected on social networks, but there are also televisions, newspapers, and demonstrations. A good example of the demonstrations are the Monday marches in Germany. In general, the humanity, we had achieved many things thanks to the demonstration. For example, the 9th of October 1989, on that day precisely was a Monday, 17,000 of Germans peacefully protest in the German Democratic Republic against the communist regime. The first of these demonstrations occurred in Leipzig. Starting the following Monday, the movement spread to other different cities. Every Monday, hundreds of thousands of Germans they protested. This anti-war demonstration played a key role in the fall of the wall. Indeed, in the face of passive people who only carried a simple candle as a weapon and repeated slogans as "Keine Gewalt," one moment please, "Keine Gewalt," no to violence, and "Wir sind das Volk," that means no to violence. Accepted?
Point of information. So you're giving the example of the marches in Germany, which I've studied myself, and when the people in China were doing the same because they felt oppressed, they all got murdered. So you're giving that in one of the cities it worked, but in a lot more they got murdered, and they still are oppressed to this day.
Yes, but that depends.
Excuse me, may I just point out 15 seconds only is allowed for points of information.
Can I continue? Okay. As well as the Black Lives Movement, people were expressing their feelings about how black people should be not tolerating any more discrimination. Nowadays, for example, in any not-religious radical country, black people have the same rights as white people. But the Black Lives Movement were a good way for black people to show the people that they have the same rights. I want to study law. I want to marry whoever I want. And I want to believe the God I wanted. Nice, isn't it? This is called individual freedom. Something that as humans have nowadays. Of course, there are parts of the world where people don't have as much as freedom, but that is because of their choice of religion. Without doubt, the ability to choose is one of the greatest gifts that the humanity has been received. And there are many historical events that prove all these things. Women weren't able to attend university not long ago. Now, look at me. I can study wherever I want. I can work wherever I want. So I think that the humanity is free nowadays. Thank you.
In an age where technological advancements have become synonymous with progress, it is essential to question whether humanity is truly free. Today, ladies and gentlemen, and honorable judges, and opposing team, today we will explore the notion that humanity, with its oppressive system, has truly trapped us in a web of dependency, thought control, and restricted our freedom. Furthermore, the erosion of free speech and the growing spectre of censorship only serve to reinforce the idea that we might not be as free as we might believe. To properly understand this notion, it is essential not to confuse freedom with mere permissiveness. The constant pursuit of technological innovation has created a paradoxical situation in modern society. While technology promises to liberate us from the monotony of daily life, it simultaneously ensnares us in a complex web of dependencies. We have become reliant on technology for communication, information, and even our daily routines. In this context, the very tools that were meant to empower us now hold us hostage, making us increasingly vulnerable to those who control them. Overall, this technological enslavement has eroded our autonomy, our independent thought, and our freedom. This can be visually observed in the average IQ scores over time, and the decrease of 1 point per every 5 years, according to the Program of National Student Assessment. Despite these current problems, what the possible future holds for us is much worse, and I found the most disturbing example. It turns out the Sony Corporation owns a patent which describes an almost dystopian form of advertising. In it, TV viewers are only allowed to skip an advert by exclaiming the name of the brand. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the peak definition of technological enslavement. It is forced propaganda which promotes consumerism. It's almost as if they control us, as if they own us. It's only a means of keeping us docile so that we consume and obey. Modern society also encourages mindless consumerism, in where individuals are driven to acquire more and more material possessions, often in pursuit of happiness and self-worth. This perpetuates a never-ending cycle of consumption and production, which obviously immensely benefits the system economically, but leaves no time for self-reflection and the exploration of personal freedoms. Our lives are increasingly dictated by this, rather than genuine personal development. The system encourages you to buy the things you don't need with the money you either don't have or earn by working for the system. In our seemingly connected world, free speech is under threat. The rise of censorship, whether driven by governments or corporations, stifles dissent and constrains the free exchange of ideas. Our limitation on our ability to express ourselves curtails our freedom, as it hinders all independent thought necessary for a functioning democratic society. According to the World Economic Forum, in a survey conducted in 2016, 64% of internet users worldwide felt they were either not free or only partly free while online.
Information. Actually, people choose the technologies they use, and you accept privacy policies, and you accept what they're controlling you. You just their small letters when you get an app, for example.
Well, I'm not explaining that type of freedom. I'm explaining that, well, many testimonies surrounding this topic have been said in Congress, but the bottom line is that they basically take advantage of the dopamine in your brain to get you to spend more time on your phone. Anyway, additionally, according to the Times, approximately 3,300 people were arrested in the UK alone in the past 5 years for something they had said online. Censorship serves the interests of those in power, creating societies that keep individuals under control and limits their freedom to challenge the system, to live without being able to express one's opinion, as unpopular as it may be, is not to live freely. To properly understand the lack of freedom we have, it is essential to analyze the system we live in. Our modern society perpetuates the illusion of conformity, where individuals are expected to obey the norms and expectations set by the ruling class.
What is this? What does this remind you of? For me, it reminds me of the Industrial Revolution. What a time, right? Where machines started to appear in countries all over across Europe. When the skies were full of smokes. When people that weren't from the wealthy part of the class society had to work every morning, go to factories. The Factory Acts, 1833. People who worked inside the factories suffered from psychological and physical abuses. Little children from 4 years old to up worked the same hours as men and women, and with fewer wages. Women also were discriminated. They had also fewer wages as the rest of the men. People were abused inside. They worked over hours and had no rights. They didn't even have an hour to have lunch. The Factory Acts were signed by the British Parliament in 1833. It's a document of legal laws that provides rights and freedoms to the children and women inside the factories. It provides them the right to work only 8 hours to children. Children below 7 years old couldn't work.
We already stated that this still happens in some parts of the world.
Yes, of course there are dictatorships, there are radical religions everywhere, and there's always some place that someone with higher power is going to do these abuses to people. But still, people have the right to fight for their freedom. The Universal Declaration of Rights, I'm going to mention it later, and you'll see that people can fight for themselves if they want. Of course, it's difficult, but they can do it. Continuing. All here present who work have the ability to take a leave of absence if they get sick. If a woman has a child nowadays, she has 4 months to be with her baby. Also, people have the right to, as I mentioned before, have lunch and everything. Thanks to what? Laws. The workers' movement. Thanks to all these laws and rights that the legal protections grants us, people have rights nowadays when they work. And this is essential. Every 4 years in Spain, everybody who's above 18 years old can go and vote for the president. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you that not long ago, women didn't have the right to do this. Women couldn't vote. They just had to work and take care of the children. But nowadays we can vote. We can go over there and choose who the president to be. Why? The suffragettes movement.
Information, as an example, in the country of Afghanistan, I think it was 1 or 2 years ago, women lost the right to vote and the right to education. So we are actually going backwards instead of making improvements.
Yes, of course. In this country, we are going backwards. But thanks to the suffragettes movement, it's actually an excellent example. Years ago, women had this situation. They couldn't vote. But thanks that they fought for their rights and freedoms, the suffragettes movement made them had a voice and the government heard them. And thanks to that, a lot of laws were signed. And nowadays, we can vote in most of the countries. And probably in the future, hopefully, people in this country will be able to vote as well. Of course, talking about human rights, we have to mention the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now I'm going to read you. This is a document consists of 30 articles. I'm going to read you a few. These articles are freedoms, basic rights for people. Article number 2 of the Declaration of Human Rights. Everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration, without distinction of any kind, such as race, sex, language, religion, political or other opinions. Article number 3.
So, with the last thing that you said, you talked to me about one country and I'm sorry,
As I was mentioning, the Universal Declaration of Rights. Article number 20. Everyone has the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and association. This is a document that proves that humans have the rights. They can fight for their rights. They are there, they just have to fight for it. All these legal documents, even though you see it as a simple paper, are the things that get us to be free. We are free thanks to these documents. We are free, and thanks to all these laws and rights and protections, women can vote, women can stay with their children at home, workers have the ability to leave if they have an emergency, and just basic human rights. And legal protections, at the end of the day, they're always protecting us. And these are laws and freedoms that no one can deny that we have. And even though if you're in a radical place with a dictatorship or radical religion, you can always fight. You have a voice and you can say it. Of course you're going to be scared. Now I'm going to begin with the conclusion of my team and I against the motion humanity is not free. First of all, I'm going to review our arguments. First, freedom of expression. Social media. Of course there are bad things in social media. There are bad things everywhere in this world. You will not find a place where everything is good and happy. Of course they're haters, but haters have their own opinions. And they're just saying an opinion that's different to yours. But it can always help you understand another points of view. Individual freedoms. You can choose who you love. You can choose what to study. You can choose basically everything. Of course there are countries that they're radical religions and dictatorships, as I said before. But you can always fight for these things. They're individual freedoms that any human being should have. Continuing. Legal protections. All the laws, everything. They help us. They help us daily. Even though you don't notice it, the fact that we can attend to school is just a privilege that not everybody has. And it's something that it grants us freedom, the freedom to learn, the freedom to know what is around us. Now, going back to your arguments, democracy. Democracy is something that nowadays France has. The French Revolution was not simply just something that happened and no consequences were obtained of it. There was an absolute monarchy at France at that time. And thanks to the French Revolution, thanks that the people spoke up and said, this is not fair, the democracy was obtained. Of course, there was a period where 12 people were in charge of a council and continued the absolute monarchy, but in a different way without being monarchy. But after that, people continued fighting. And if you notice, nowadays, France has a democracy. Taxes. Taxes? Of course they're mandatory, but taxes are for your own good. Public schools. All the children that go to public schools can go to these schools because the taxes provide the money for the teachers, the school buildings, and everything.
Me, myself, I come from Argentina, a country which lies in South America and still is, even though we've fought for freedom, even though we're freed for there to be no censorship, there still is a lot of corruption. As an example, in Argentina, we're currently having elections, but it has been proven that even though there is elections in the country, there's still electoral fraud, ballots that are destroyed, and the media, which is controlled by the current government, is oppressing the other forces which are trying to get into the government. I mean, what kind of freedom is it? Even though they tell us that there's still votes, you still have the current government making propaganda, giving us terror for there to be another thing. I mean, in anything, they're even taking away the liberty of someone else. I have here a text, which my companion has given me a minute, saying, you might think to yourself, but I'm a human being, I have rights, and that is true. However, constitutional rights are useful up to a point, but they do not serve to guarantee much more than what we could be called the bourgeoisie conception of freedom, which is basically states that we might be free as a man, but essentially an element of us, but at the end, we're just an element in a social machine that only has a certain set of prescribed and delimited freedoms. Freedoms that are designed to serve the needs of the system more than those of the individual. And she's also giving the example of the taxes. At the end, I've said myself, how is it able that taxes are for our own good, but something is water, we shouldn't pay for it. It should be free for everyone, but at the end we still pay for something that should be granted to any human being in order to live. So at the end, they might tell us that we're free, but we are not. As I've said with the book of Animal Farm, at the end it's still the same, just with another name. Thank you very much.
Why can't I just go back to you and sleep?
You could, but generally there's differences in power. You know, if you're the strongest person, which is why in ancient times the strong always won.
The problem is that in theory the government should be there for the good of every people, but at the end, as soon as they're in power, just like any normal human being, they strive to keep the power and be there for as long as they want. So they kind of change the rules in their own favor, even though the initial idea for the government is to be there for the good of the people. At the end, they only look for their own good.
Is it an illusion?
Yeah, it's just an illusion of freedom.
So the debate society, have you got any comments on what you heard?
What did you guys think?
Well, You got any questions for these guys? Go on, fire away.
That you're telling us that we don't have enough freedom to say what we want, but right now you guys have the freedom to speak about that we don't have freedom. So isn't it technically
The thing is, we can say what we want, but there's always limitations. If I say something that is against the opinion of a lot of people, at the end they would punish me. Or I'm saying that even though here I am able to say whatever we want, in most parts of the world I couldn't. I couldn't state my opinion, I couldn't say what I want, and I would be punished, and there would be censorship in what I say. So only because I'm free to say whatever we want here doesn't mean that it's like this in the whole world. At the end, the subject is if humanity is free, not if this room is free.
Another great example of that would be, imagine I just get out there and with the camera rolling and everything, and I just say racist, something racist or anything like that. First of all, I would have consequences for my actions, both because of the Rotary Club, my school, so I'm not free for saying what I want.
Fire away.
I think what you said about laws, I think there should be laws because of people's own safety, but some laws I will say that they are completely ridiculous. So we do need laws in order for our own safety. Like for example, the thing they said about stealing, like that, people are free to do whatever they want and they should be free to do whatever they want, but some things, they're just like really mean. And laws like that, I think they are appropriate, but some laws are completely ridiculous.
There were no laws and somebody stole your possession. That would obviously immensely benefit your attacker, but it would also immensely benefit you because you could use violence against them.
Good. There's a question down here.
I think when you said that you're not free to, if the racist comment thing, you're not free to say it. Why are you not free to say it? It's because your liberty does end at one point. It ends when the other one's begins. If you say something that can cause a problem that can hurt someone else's feelings, that's when you're not free to say something, because it ends the other person's freedom. We are all free because we can say what we want as long as it doesn't take away the freedom of someone else.
So basically you are admitting that we are only free up to a certain point. Of course it's obvious that at the end you shouldn't take the freedom from someone else. But if we truly are free and can do whatever we want, then we should be able to do these things, even though they may not be morally correct. So if we talk about true freedom and really doing whatever we want, then there shouldn't be constraints. I am not defending it. I'm saying that if we truly are free, then we should be able to do it.
And talking about morality, so in the case of the phone, well, if there were no rules, just apply things that don't do to others what you wouldn't like it to you. So you don't see another phone because you wouldn't like someone to just come.
But if there were no laws, for example, murder, it would be a little bit, it's not very ethical.
The thing is,
I mean, laws are there for a reason, and it's to protect us.
yes, the thing is, the governments and in general, the law structures, they use the concept of laws for their own benefit, limiting us, because as I said, at the beginning laws were there.
We've got two more questions, and I think the judges are going to come back in a couple of minutes, so far away with your question.
Somebody of you, I'm sorry, I'm very bad with names and places, said that we have the liberty of fighting for our freedom, but I don't believe that this is entirely true. Some countries, when there's protests about this, about being free, liberty of speech, they kill the protestants. I don't think this is very free.
Of course, for example, when the suffragettes movements occurred, women were taken to jail, but still they continued fighting, and that's the way they draw attention from the governments and the people who are really in power. They didn't give up, so exactly.
But they are free to fight, but
Yes,
they are
but-
not free.
Exactly, but if you want to fight for your freedoms, at the end of the day, you have to fight until the end. If you really want to be free or fight for your rights, you have to fight.
Okay, we have a question down here.
You said that we are not free to talk.
but and obviously, if I say something, some people are not going to say the same because they have different points of view and we have liberty to protest about the thing that I say because they have different points of view. So that we can say what.
So I understand your point that you're saying in theory we could say whatever we want, and there could be people that insult us or say something against it. As an example, in Argentina there was a reporter who said something against the current government. What a surprise that a week later he was found dead and supposedly by a heart attack, even though the indicators showed something else. So we might be able to say whatever we want, but we get punished, even in some situations, to even get murdered for stating our opinion.
Good question.
It's for the girls. I'm asking you that you said that we are free. Yeah, but for example, let's take taxes. The government wants money from us, and they ask us money. And taxes for me are like a yearly subscription to living in a city. And for example, let's take kids. When they have to go to school, you have to pay for their tuition, right? Isn't that free?
Well, it depends on the school. If you go to a private school, of course, if you go to a public school, that's where the taxes are for. For example, the roads you see, all the roads where the cars go, that's from taxes that us citizens pay because we live here, and we believe that if you want the country you live in to be good, well, someone has to pay, and between all of us. And the hospitals, for example, the public hospitals, they're from taxes. Part of the money, of course.
Any other questions, anyone? No? Well, very quiet debate society you've got here.
Very polite.
Big number. Thank you.
The water needs to have some money. They're not going to be free because if you want it free, you need to go to clean the water, to the lake, and that. So they're not going to be free.
So if we talk about the taxes, so they can just, as the same as they use the taxes to do, just go to the streets and do that, they can just put it to create fountains and to be free for everybody. Or the bottles,
Actually, there are fountains that are created by the government in public places if you walk on the streets.
yeah, but that's in places
And that comes from taxes, of course.
That's in Spain, but there's countries out there that do not have that good
Of
time.
course, there are always exceptions, but water at the end of the day, this is not just the water they took from the lake and put it in here. They had to clean it, a process for us to not get poisoned by the
We're
water.
talking about humanity, not one country.
So what?
We wanted to focus on the whole humanity.
Oh yes,
And not just like Spain.
no, yes, I mean, but everywhere the water that is sold on the markets, it costs money, but because it has been done a process of poisoning. Because if you drink the water straight from when they get it, you may get serious health problems. So it's actually for your own good.
I want to say that there actually was an initiative to selling free bottled water, which what they did was to make advertisements inside the bottle so it would pay for itself, the bottle of water, so you can give it to the people for free. The thing is that at the end, the companies always want to get the benefit and they want to earn money, so at the end that initiative failed, and yeah, we still have to pay for water. And you said that it might be that we in Spain here have got water, but as you said, the basis for the entire humanity, and if there's exceptions, it automatically says that we don't have water everywhere.
Well, of course, what you said makes sense, and it's a good idea actually, but at the end of the day, these companies of water, for example, are not from the government, and when someone starts a business, normally they want to get their own benefit from it, as it's a logical thing, because the owner of the business and all the workers inside there actually have to get paid because they need to live, so actually it's helping the economy if you think about it that way.
So we can just, or the taxes, or when people like they just have to just in the streets because it's something wrong. Why don't we just go to the
Well, yes, but you will never stop the businesses that already have their water bottles done.
Yeah, but still, we use them for places that are not really free, aren't not. Let's just use them, like use the water for the countries that do not have water.
Yes, of course, many, if you search, you're going to find many campaigns of this type of movements, but at the end of the day, you're not going to stop the normal businesses making water. And if you go to a supermarket, you're going to see hundreds of water bottles, and none is from the government. So actually, taxes don't have anything to do with water. And if you want free water and you drink from a lake, actually you're going to get poisoned. So you're not benefiting yourself by this argument.
So we have a question here.
Yeah.
So, this is for you. So, also you have to think the water as a resource is limited. Like there are cobrándonos. We are paying like for the plastic bags. We also have to pay for the water. It's a limited resource, and now you can see there's no water everywhere right now. There's countries without water. So by paying, it's like a measure to reduce the use of water.
So basically, you're telling us that we are paying to create more water? Like you said that we're paying for these water bottles because we don't have to.
No, we are paying.
If you get the water from I don't know how to say it. If you get the water from the lake, you're going to get poisoned. It's not free, the process of depoisoning the water.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying
that we are paying
of course,
for this
it's
water
not everywhere in the
because
world.
we're staying without water, but we're basically.
No, but by the same, like we are paying, so we don't overuse water. Look, before the water was free, no, the water point and the lake of I don't know where, I forgot, but it was on the news. Now it's completely drained. Why? Because it was free to use for this village. So they overly use for planting plants, vegetables and everything, and because it was free. And now it's completely drained.
So basically, we could just use other types of water for other types of things. So maybe we don't use the same water that we drink to just shower or do whatever.
No, but we use it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I don't know if I have time, but it's directed at the opposing team. If you had got the other side of the argument, what would you have argued?
Well, I would have argued with that every action has its opposite of its equal opposite reaction. So basically, the laws are just there for consequences of the actions, and how it's just every 4 years we choose the people that are going to create the law, and they promote themselves by telling what laws you're going to add or which ones you're going to do. So basically, we choose the rules that we pass.
You're also focused on democratic societies. Then.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a mix of everything.
So it's difficult to maybe consider humanity in general. This topic of humanity is
even though
a lot of people with a lot of different religions and a lot of different government policies, and so we kind of have to approach it as the majority of the world, the humanity in the world, right? If not, it's sort of an automatic loss of the debate, isn't it?
Yeah, so what I would have said if I was against is that even though there still are regimes all over the world, that we as a collective, we are constantly fighting for improvement, and at the end of the day, we, humanity, we win this war. Even though we're making progresses all over the world and we are getting closer and closer and closer to it. So that even though there might be regimes, at the end of the day, we win, not them.
I have a question for you. What you said about the French Revolution not being like...
I gave the
Yes, that the
example
French
of
Revolution
Argentina.
didn't change things. I didn't really understand that, but because it actually changed a lot of things and helped a lot the citizens of France.
I never said anything against the French Revolution. I gave the example of Argentina, which is a country which has fought for democracy, but at the end there's still corruption. I never said anything against the French Revolution. And even though it was the French Revolution which took down the monarchs, there still later came a dictator which basically made the same thing once again.
No, yes, but I'm not saying you, I'm saying someone in your team mentioned the French Revolution.
So, and French Revolution, they were fighting for it to not be,
So it would be no absolute.
no absolutism. So they ended up, like, at the end, they still was.
No, but actually, no, it wasn't.
So basically, the thing is, once there was this democracy, at the beginning everyone could vote, later only men could vote, women couldn't vote anymore. And then you had the government of the Jacobins, if I'm not mistaken, and they started implementing a reign of terror, saying that if you say something against the ideas of the revolution, and you actually supported the regime of
But when Robespierre died, the reign of terror ended with him. Yes.
And then there came Napoleon, which was a straight-up dictator.
But Napoleon was also abolished, and this all came from the French Revolution, so actually the French Revolution did change a lot of things. I know this because I studied it, and I'm just inventing it, but...
So, if you would have got four, what would you say?
Well, we would have talked about economic inequality. Economic inequality, the fact that people that are born in other countries don't have the same rights just because they were born there, for example. They didn't, exactly, so yes, they didn't. Yes, artificial intelligence, what you said about technology invading us and our privacy at the end of the day, because they know a lot of some private policies and not all of them. I need some questions.
Yeah, far away. Your turn.
Oh, okay. That for you, that you're telling us that we don't have enough freedom to do what we want, but if we have,
the judges have arrived.
Well, here we go. There, I can feel the nerves walking in the door. Anyway, I would like to ask, first of all, Gail, one of the team members, just to say a couple of comments, please.
Can I say a huge thank you to both teams for such an interesting morning.
Thank you.
And thank you for the audience participation. You know, it's always great to see a lot of people here. So thank you very much. A lot of research and a lot of time undertaken. One of the tips going forward, by not reading, you're actually giving yourself a lot more opportunity to involve the audience. Ask rhetorical questions, ask open questions, bring some humour, and by just having the key words of your key ideas, much better than reading, alright? It's much better not to read out when you're doing a debate. But a great morning, thanks for all your hard work, alright?
Thank you, Gail. Hannah, would you like to say a few words?
Thanks for today. The topic was very difficult. We all thought so. That's why we needed such a long time. Discussing is very tight. I think that a couple of you were very nervous, which obviously Martina, for instance, very difficult to start the whole round. You had the hard job. Then you start talking quickly, right, when you're nervous. The same with Amir a little bit. I think that in your case, you had a very difficult text.
I stuttered.
No, you didn't. No, you did it well, but the text was, you know, sometimes the form and the content have to match better. And in your case, it was the wording was so difficult that you obviously didn't get the spontaneous thing into it. But your body language was good. Inez, obviously, very good job. Teamwork, well done. On the teamwork, we had some comments in our round that it could be improved, especially in that topic so difficult that maybe it would have been better to structure the thing in parts and do more teamwork around it and break it down in a bigger unit. But thanks a lot. It was, as always, very encouraging for us to see you fully.
And the jury spokesperson,
Yeah.
Oliver, would you like to come forward?
Oh, my
my fellow judges have mentioned nervousness. I'm very nervous standing up here. This is, it was a complicated question today, and it could have gone either way. And it's interesting that you both used similar arguments: social media, legal reform, democracy. You to support the point, and you to, so the other way around. You used the same arguments to prove the opposite end of it, which is really interesting. We've always seen improvements in the way that you guys present. You know, there's lots of this, and there's lots of pausing. We never used to see that a couple of years ago. You really were learning from it. It's fantastic. We took ages as judges because we didn't agree on it. So we had to come up with a decision. We saw, for instance, things like you guys were very good at making points of information. You guys were very good at dealing with them. You know, that was, there were lots of, I will come to you in a moment, and you were very good in your hand. But the standard keeps getting higher, our job keeps getting more difficult, and we have had to choose winners today. Just to mention a couple of really, you know, as we mentioned before, we did have a split decision. I'm not going to say who voted for who, but so just to really illustrate it was tough. It was fantastic as well. Both you guys were great. But we have picked a winner, and today it's Christopher. That's the debate. So congratulations. You got that, that's yours. Did you enjoy it? I loved it. Very good. A winning team. Again, this is very complicated. Again, it was something that we didn't agree on as judges. We're looking for the way that you work as teams, the collective performance of all of you individually, the way you structure your arguments, and we've had to pick a winner. I wish I didn't have to do this, but today's winner, winning team, come up please, is Agora.
You were part of the team at the end.
Can I just come forward and could I ask the San Cayetano to come forward, Tracy, Alberto? Yeah, I think it's a good idea, Harry. Can you make sure that you can see everybody? Go on.
Yes. Yes.